All right, it's me, H Music. Welcome to my religious life video blog. So here's my common version, talk about, 19th Sunday of, after Pentecost Day. So you just trust me about that. Anyways, let's see. Oh yes, Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. And it says right here on my Anglican website, it says, once more Jesus spoke to the people in parables, saying the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his slaves to call those who have been invited to the wedding banquet, but they would not come. Again he sent other slaves, saying, tell those who have been invited, look, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatted calves has been slaughtered. Everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But they made light of it and went away, one to his farm, another to his business, while you guessed it, the one and only. Yes, the rest seized his slaves, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his troops to destroy those murderers and burn their city. Then he said to his slaves, the wedding is ready, but to those invited were not worthy. Go therefore into the main streets and invite everyone you find the wedding banquet. To those slaves went out to the streets and gathered all who they found, both good and bad. So the wedding hall filled with guests. But now here it is, your worst nightmare. Here's your worst nightmare, because here, but when the king came in to see the guest, he noticed a man there who was not wearing a wedding robe. And he said to him, friend, how did you get here? You get in here without a wedding robe. And he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, bind him hand and foot, and throw him out into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. So this is what few are chosen. Now, here's the purpose you all know about this one on Matthew chapter 22. Because we have here in this parable of guests inviting inside the wedding feast. Because in this, and that's why it says that Jesus answered not to what his opposer says, because they were put to silence, but to what they thought of him. Well, guess what? When they were wishing for an opportunity to lay hands on him, well, you guessed it, Christ knows him how to, answer these questions, answer their thoughts. Because everybody knows that he's a discerner of them, or answered. That is, he continued to his disclosure to same purpose for this parable, that everybody has been represented inside this gospel offer. And the entertainment, well, you guessed it, it tried to meet with, you guessed it. You guessed it. That's right. Guessed it, the former. But under similitude And the parable of the vineyard represents, yes, the sins of the rulers that persecuted the prophets. And it shows the sin of the people who generally neglects the message for their great ones. Inside this messages. First, gospel you know why? Because it has the gospel preparations are here to represent a feast which a king made at the marriage of his son. And you know why? Such is the kingdom of heaven. And what about the provision? Well, it made precious souls, as far as we're concerned, in and by the new covenant. And you know why? Because King is God. A great King, King of Kings, now. Now, what about, well, it has something to do with the marriage for his son. And everybody's preparing a dinner, and it's a, you know why? It's a feast. And you might think it's so smart about a wedding feast, about all that stuff, could be joyful, rich, and free. But what about the royal wedding feast? Well, imagine if you have Prince Charles and Lady Diana having a royal wedding, and others. So, oh boy, that's in the UK as far as we're concerned. It could be the feast of the king. Now, second, the gospel calls and has an offer to represent an invitation to this feast. And those who make a feast will prepare a guest to grace this feast with. And God's guests are the children of man. And Lord, what is man that he should be dignified? Well, guess what? Quote this from Proverbs chapter 9 verses 4 and 5 says, the guests that were invited were given to the Jews wherever the gospel is preached, and this invitation is given ministers or servants that are sent to invite. Because everybody knows that guests have to be called and called upon with this gospel, or everybody knows with hearing the joyful sounds, and they are not gracious proposals or whatever happens to this. Now, 3. Here's my observation for you. The cold treatment, which the gospel of Christ often meets with among the children of men, and has represented this. The cold treatment that this message has met with the hot treatment. And what about the messengers everybody knows? Now, both sides of the story that the king himself and the royal bridegroom are affronted. And this reflects upon the Jews. It was rejected by the counsel of God against themselves. But it looks further to the contempt that would by many of all ages. You know why? Because it has put upon the opposition that would be given to the gospel of Christ. And who knows? That's the message, and all the messages, you know. So who knows? Can be civilized about this one. And you know who. Could be. Let's observe this. And everybody else can be civilized. So you know the rest of the story about the wedding guests and all that stuff. And you know what I'm talking about. Because the moral of my political life, or no, not my political, oh yeah, the moral of my religious life video blog says The story says in James chapter 1, verse 14 says, let no one says that he is tempted. I am tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself tempts no one, but each one is tempted when he's lured and enticed by his own desires. And why? Because of this 19th Sunday of Pentecost. And so it's Matthew chapter 22nd. Chapter 22nd, verses 1 through 14. Because everyone else can be sliced about the wedding and all that. And that's why for many are called, but few are chosen. And that's my religious life video blog story, and I'm sticking to it.